The breath can be measured by lung capacity and so on. But how about prana construction? How can that be clarified scientifically? So fair question. And I suppose to be honest, it hasn't been. There are people who kind of, believe in esoteric stuff that try to put scientific language on it, but that doesn't mean that it's been clarified and solved, right? Whereas and the difficulty is getting a proper definition. So really the word prana, as used definitely by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra, is referring to a very grounded concept, as per your question, the breath. That's what it is, prana, the breath. And there are later texts, especially when you get up to things like Vishishta, Samahita and so on, that have a reference to prana in that more esoteric sense, energy of life. But this now we're getting back into what you might call the tantric, the hatha yoga territory. And then if you wanted me to explain that further, I would say, well, really that prana then is referring more to physiology. You might even call it psychophysiology as such, okay? How that is and behaves. So we have some measures of psychophysiology, but it still doesn't explain, let's say, the spiritual process or anything like that. I hope, that's a big part of my work over the next 30 years, and it'll take time. And one of the best things we can work with now is probably a way more refined EEG as such, reading of brain waves, etc. But on another level, if you really want to go prana and esoteric on it, well, you could say the physical is connected to the spiritual subtle, but then the actual spiritual quality is not seen or measured, and definitely not in a direct way here in the physical to physiological sense. So you sitting in a car, right? The state of the car could impact what's going on with you, but to measure the function of the car, the temperature in the car, etc., you don't really get a good reading of you, the passenger in the car, see? So I am the passenger in the car. I want to take care of the car. I want to maybe affect the climate, the humidity inside the car, and how well it runs, see? So in that sense, it has an impact on me. And of course, I'll leave that car and go on, hopefully having it brought me wherever and on into a new destination. But the outsider is left measuring state of the car, temperature of the car, functioning of the car, and from there you're trying to draw conclusions of how that passenger was. And that's an analogy to see where you can say research on prana and spirituality is at. It's either hard to get at it with what we are capable of now, and too many draw very fanciful lines. So what I can say is, the body responded better. Our physiology, our brain waves, how they've balanced and managed. So like the body responded better in this setting of the car. Okay, I hope you're following me on that. Luckily this is recorded, so you can listen to it again and again. Okay. So that's the challenge then for someone like me researching this stuff. So we can start with, even if it's psychophysiological, it still is grounded in earthly phenomena. Whereas there's no guarantee all this stuff that we describe as spirit and the prana in an esoteric sense is getting at can be figured out with these earthly phenomena. My experience so far is in the tradition we look through the pulse, and basically you're looking at wavelengths and heart rhythms, and basically the changes that you've experienced are reflected through that. Similarly, then, if we put on a very highly sensitive EEG, cap, that's going to read way more centers, areas of the brain. In other words, get a lot more refined reading. Then you're probably getting, I think anyway, from my experience looking at this, both directly as a subject for that, and also as the person trying to read it and look into it and study. I think that might be the closest we would be able to look at prana, so to speak. And then you have to know what you're looking for, what it means, yeah? And very few do. So what you have is a lot of people saying, oh, my kundalini is awake, oh, my prana is rising, or all this and that. And for sure, something's going on physiologically because they're experiencing some feelings and things in different places and parts of the body and so on. But is that really this kind of description of spiritual growth, energy rising that they state in the texts? My experience is definitely not. It might be a preliminary stage, but again, it can stay as a crazy energy in a preliminary stage, which may not even benefit you. Or through regular practice, regular awareness, tuned in, this changing physiology can be brought to use or help benefit you, right? And so then if you put people under EEG who are claiming all sorts of things, when you really look at the brain waves, or as we do, we look at the pulse, there isn't much. I know you're describing all this moving activity inside, but actually when we look at it, pulse, which is difficult to read, but it has lots of insights in it, or advanced EEG brainwave analysis, you don't see anything that they're hoping is associated with all that moving energy. Now, having said that, there's no point in knocking it and saying it's not right, but rather, have a dose of reality. How are you practicing? How regular is that? Let's keep that going. Let's stay. That is our priority, and not like, wow, this happened, that happened, this moved, that moved, etc. That moved. So I knocked my props on set here. So consider it like that. Anyway, I hope that's kind of clear.